Dr. Natalie, Lenor Blackman, coming to you with more information on the kidney element, or what we call the water element, because we are still in the winter season and some people are deep in the winter season. This is when most of the United States are getting hit with a huge snowstorm, and we're not necessarily getting hit with it, so I thought I would find something to do. So we're going to talk about this kidney element in the winter season, and I'm going to talk about something that I think concerns more pet parents than anything that we see. Okay, it's the number one most marketed products online for pets, and that has to do with the teeth. Yes, it has to do with dental health. And we have more people calling our office. We do anesthesia-free dental cleaning, so we have a lot of people find us trying to get their pets' teeth cleaned without anesthesia. And it really is one of the most common ailments that pet owners deal with. And that can go back and forth between bad breath issues and or just dental issues. And so I'm going to break the two down. As a veterinarian of 23 years, and even having my postgraduate certification in dentistry, where I worked in a predominantly dental practice for almost 2 years, I have never done a dental on one of my dogs. And my oldest dogs have made it to 17. I've had 2 make it to 17. And now I'm in my younger group. My older dogs have passed away, and I have a younger group, and my oldest dog is 6, and she doesn't even have staining on her teeth. And so I would like to explain that so people do understand that the teeth are directly linked to the kidney element, and that kidney element is one controlled by the earth element, which is the digestion. So that goes back to our gut health. That also goes back to the microbiome. But people also do not realize that when their pets receive a vaccine, their pet has to deal with what's called the antigen antibody complexes. And that's where the antigen came in with the vaccine, and the body makes antibodies to that. Well, they make so many antibodies that if your pet receives more than one vaccine, like in a puppy series where they may receive, a 5-in-1 or a 7-in-1 3 or 4 times within the first 4 months of their life, I want you to think about how many antigen antibody complexes that is in a very young dog's body. The body has to put those antigen antibody complexes someplace. And so one of the places it will actually put those is in the kidney tubules. So the kidney tubules are like this, and they have multiple tubules. There's hundreds of tubules, maybe thousands, that make up a kidney, and the antigen antibody complexes go line those tubules. That's one place where the body will store them. The other place is they'll store those antigen antibody complexes in the lining of the joints. So as you can see, right, over time a pet may develop glomerulonephritis, protein losing nephritis or nephropathy, and they also may develop what's also called arthritis or osteoarthritis. Do you see the connection here? And then, of course, we see the leaky gut and the gastroenteritis, right? And so vaccines are a big contributor to dental health, because if we weaken that kidney element, we're weakening the teeth. When we create leaky gut, we're destroying and affecting the natural microbiome. That's going to affect our saliva. That also affects how we break down the food. And then that saliva is going to stay like right in here up against those teeth. And it's going to be laden with yeast and bad bacteria. And so if the pet is already eating a high starch kibble diet, they've got sugars in that, saliva in their mouth, up against their teeth. And so we've got this compounding effect of dental disease. So the dental disease can be prevented in young dogs. This is why at our practice, in cats, this is why at our practice we titer test. We titer test at the very beginning of life, because if we can prevent adding all these extra antigen antibody complexes into the body, then we're going to prevent having kidney damage, leaky gut issues, and therefore the teeth will be a lot more healthy. Okay, so we have one component there, right, that are the vaccines. contributing to that dental health. Then the other component, of course, is a high starch kibble diet, because that is a lot of sugars. And so if we have a lot of sugars in our diet, then that's going to create what we call damp heat in Chinese medicine, which is really just inflammation. But the body wasn't designed, especially the pets were not designed to break down carbs. They were meant to be carnivorous. And so here they have this heavy laden amount of sugar, not only in their bloodstream, but in their saliva, in their small intestine. And so that's where we'll get a lot of like plaque buildup on teeth. The other connection here with the winter element and the water element affecting the breath is that if we have a pet that has had a lot of chronic inflammation, a lot of chronic damp heat in their body, I brought something to show us what yin and yang look like in the body, and I'm really going to use this as like more of yin. So I like to help people understand that yin in our body is it is, I think of it like the liquid, okay? So it's like what keeps us cool, calm, and collected. And so you start out our lives with this certain amount of yin, and then we can nourish yin based on the foods we eat. So if we're eating real food and we're not feeding kibble, because real food will continue to nourish yin because it's got moisture in it. And if we're doing, balancing the body, we're not loading it down with chemicals, then our yin stays nice and strong. Yin does get depleted over time. It gets depleted with age. It gets depleted when hormones decrease. So yin has a natural depletion even without those, additional chemicals or vaccines. But let's think of this, like this is the yin in the body of your pet, and they have this nice amount of cool, we call it the body's natural air conditioner. And then let's talk about, okay, we've got a puppy and it just received 3 to 4, let's say 5-in-1. Let's be gentle. We're not going to say the 7-in-1. We're going to say the 5-in-1 vaccine. So it's just received 3 or 4 sets of the 5-in-1 vaccine. And on the last one, they're told they need a rabies. So then we've got an extra vaccine. Some clinics do a Bordetella vaccine at that point. Some encourage lepto at that point. That should be a big no. But let's say we just got our vaccines, right? So when we do this, when we give those vaccines, it causes what we call blood heat and liver heat. And the kidneys are the parent to the liver. So we can just go ahead and go, we've just depleted a lot of our yin, right? And that young dog. And then a lot of times on one of their first visits, they're given those new oral flea and tick meds. Those cause a lot of blood heat. If they tell you to give a ProHeart 6 or a ProHeart 12 injection, look how much yin we have. Then we feed a kibble diet. This is not looking good. Oh my gosh. And so now I've got this much yin depletion in my body, which is basically, think of it like internal dehydration. And then we're going to feed that puppy through its life kibble, dry extruded kibble, and it has no moisture. So what ends up happening, and we'll go back to that breath, it can happen in young dogs, it can happen in older dogs, but as this yin gets depleted, the stomach, let's use this as the stomach, okay? The stomach is actually moisturized from the yin in the body, okay? And then of course, if you have real food, it will moisturize the stomach. But if we're feeding kibble, then this yin is supposed to moisturize the stomach. But if you see, there's hardly any yin, and so it cannot moisturize this stomach. So the stomach becomes hot and dry. And when it becomes hot and dry, it creates a type of gastritis, and that gastritis will actually cause a lot of bad breath. And so that can happen in young dogs. It can happen in especially older dogs. It's a lot more common in older dogs. It's a lot more common when they're beginning to have early kidney disease, because this stomach is so dry that the mouth becomes dry. And then we've got probably at some point, tartar on those teeth as well. But we get this like acid kind of odor, okay? So the kidneys are responsible for the dental health, they're responsible for the breath, and they keep that stomach cool. So there's a lot that goes on with this winter element, right? With this important kidney element. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about by using this as an illustration is that when the yin gets this low, okay, when the yin gets this depleted, we say that it can affect the adrenal glands. And I just had a client, not a client, someone approached me outside of my practice and asking me about their dog who's having bloody stool and may be potentially developing Addison's disease, that their vet is very concerned with that. And when I asked them what they were doing for flea and tick meds, what do you think they said? Brevecto. And so Brevecto does what? It depletes that yin, right? So we've got the Brevecto. Then I asked them what they were feeding. The good news is they're feeding home cooked. That's so much better, right, than kibble. But they were feeding a hot protein, a yang protein. So that's chicken. And so chicken is super hot. So what happens here? We're depleting all our yin even more, because we've got, this nothing to keep the body cool. And so with Addison's, it's most often related to a yin deficiency. So the pets get yin depleted, and then they will have, sometimes hot flashes. They'll have bouts of bloody diarrhea. This one actually also has severe skin allergies. So they'll have allergies related to the yin deficiency. Seizures are next, right? That can happen too, but all because of the yin. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about when we talk about low yin, so let's go back and fill up our yin, okay? So we have yin again in the body, and we have got a dog that's aging, so we're gonna lose a natural amount of the yin. We've been getting our flea and tick meds. We've been getting our annual vaccines. Let's say that they're feeding a real food diet, okay? So we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So we do have some yin in here, right? Well, another thing that happens with pets as they age is people tend to notice that their pet may become more fearful. And so they may all of a sudden develop unusual fears. As we've talked about in other videos, they may develop hyperacusis, so they may become sensitive to sounds, really loud sounds, fireworks, thunder, things that they weren't ever afraid of before. And this has to do with a yin deficiency, okay? And then we're going to take this and let this be the heart this time instead of the stomach. If we've had long-term yin depletion in the kidney, then we usually have depletion in the stomach, okay? Then above the stomach, I want you to think about the heart. And so as a dog ages, they will also get some yin depletion in that heart. That can also contribute to that fear and even fright. So the loud sounds can be triggered from a heart yin and kidney yin deficiency. And so Chinese medicine, it really can explain so much through even just one element. There's so much misinformation online where people are just like, A equals C, right? And that's not correct. That actually isn't true for every pet. It's very specific on an individual basis, because we are going to have to take into account when we talk about the yin deficiency or the heart yin deficiency or the stomach yin deficiency, we still have to take into account so many factors in that pet's life. Like, one, what element or constitution is that pet predominantly? If they're a water element predominantly, they're usually not going to be as deficient. They're not going to lose as much yin as a fire element would when they have the chemicals. So it really does depend on the pet's constitution. It really does depend on the food that pet is eating. It depends on that pet's lifestyle. It depends on the frequency of chemicals or toxins that's being exposed to, or maybe that it's receiving. And so we have to understand that there are a lot of factors that come into play when we're talking about health in your pets, and also about correcting health. And so this is why I'm working so hard to get this information out to pet parents, because I'm really disappointed in the fact that, yes, we have the traditional veterinary system that does appear to be failing most pet parents. They're not getting the answers that they want. But then we've lost the voice to influencers that have absolutely no experience with treating pets whatsoever. They may have a few consults here and there, and they may have taken some courses here and there, but they do not have the experience that comes with being an actual practitioner or a clinician, and seeing cases and walking through cases and seeing the good and seeing the bad and seeing what works and what doesn't work. So I really hope that we're going to be able to get more information out there to you that's accurate, and to help clients understand that there is no shortcut to any place worth going. Bottom line, that healing is a journey, and whatever we're trying to help you walk through with your pet, whether it's changing their diet, whether it's helping them with irritable bowel syndrome, chronic diarrhea, allergies, kidney disease, whatever it is, that is still a journey, and that it does take time. And I'm going to be talking soon more about my holistic pet reset, because I call spring the reset button. That is the time when we're actually able to step back from all the craziness that's gone on in our pets' bodies, and actually press a button and reset it. So I've created that holistic pet reset for any person to begin their journey there. We start with gentle detox, healing the gut, okay? And then branching out on this journey of discovering the best food, which is in the food course, how to, eliminate and or reduce the amount of chemicals and toxins that your pet is receiving, and then how to begin that healing journey so that we can walk through the seasons throughout the year and see that pet fully restored.